Moving on now to the other story that we've been tracking very closely here at Headlines today. The former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh finally broke his silence on the explosive Natwar Singh interview with Headlines today's Karan Thapar that was aired last evening. His reaction came just about an hour after Sonia Gandhi herself reacted. The former Prime Minister says that there are certain conversations which take place in private, but he categorically stated that no file was sent from his office to the Congress president ever. He says, I want to make that absolutely clear. Javed Ansari is joining us now live from the capital for more on this story. Javed, that's of course in response to the specific point that was made by Natwar Singh in his interview to Karan Thapar, that Sonia Gandhi is the foremost authority in the Congress party and that most of these files really were sent to her for her to be seen first and then sent back to the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister sticking to this very same defense or rather clarification that he did even when Sanjay Baru's book really had come around. Is that not right?
Yeah, because he believes, and people close to him have been saying, we've spoken to several other ministers and they say that no such thing ever happened, no files were sent. And yesterday, and like our editor-in-chief Mr. Shekhar Gupta was saying yesterday, it just carrying files is a, they are brought in huge leather suitcases and carrying them to Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and then bringing them back. He didn't think it was possible. There are lots of senior former ministers who believe that no such thing happened. Of course, it is true that Mrs. Gandhi was kept in the loop, but that's well within the rules. But you certainly don't show files and notings to people who haven't taken the oath of secrecy. They are contesting that claim, and now we have none other than former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh coming and categorically stating that this is untrue, that this didn't happen. As far as the other point is concerned, yes, private conversation being made public, that's something that a lot of people, not necessarily congressmen, find a bit distasteful, because after all, in politics and in life, there are lots of things. When you've been associated with somebody, there's lots of conversations that take place in private. You share people's confidence. To break it for whatever reason they believe is not the done thing.
A lot of political opponents, Javed, however, also say that this is no great revelation, that this was something that they knew all along, that it is Sonia Gandhi who is acting as a super Prime Minister.
Well, the revelation was not about the super Prime Minister. The revelation was about a conversation which supposedly took place between Mrs. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Mr. Natwar Singh in the presence of Dr. Manmohan Singh at 10 Janpath. And then is the reference to the conversation that allegedly took place at Mr. Natwar Singh's residence this May. So now these were not official engagements, these were private engagements, if at all they happened, and therefore for them to be made public, they, at the least, people believe, at the very least, this is a bit unusual.
Absolutely. Javed, do stay on with us. Brijesh Pandey is also joining us live from the capital. Brijesh, you spoke to NCP's DP Tripathi earlier in the day. It really speaks of the kind of sorry state of affairs the Congress-NCP alliance is today, when a 15-year-old ally comes out and says whatever Natwar Singh is saying is true.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think 24 hours is a long day, long time in politics. And yesterday, last evening, when I spoke to the same DP Tripathi, he refused to comment on this. And he said that, until unless I hear the whole interview myself, I wouldn't comment on this. And please don't ask me for any kind of bites quote on this. Yeah. But today morning, he was a completely changed man. And when I asked him, he was more vouching for Natwar Singh's integrity and standing in politics than I think perhaps Natwar Singh himself. And he was extremely sarcastic about the fact that the kind of comments that was coming from Congress side, and he even went on to say that sycophant congressmen should realize that commenting, passing bad comments on Natwar Singh is like spitting in the sky; it falls back on you. So it was indeed a very strange commentary on the Congress-NCP alliance, given the fact that they are all set to contest the assembly election in Maharashtra together.
Absolutely. Brijesh and Javed, thanks very much for getting us perspective on that big story that we've been following since last evening.